What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to episode 66 of the Charge to the Top here at Hereford FC. And today we are back, and it is our second season here in the Championship. Of course, last episode was the end of season review for our first year in this division. And, off the back of what was a fantastic first year, to be honest, in the Championship, I'm of course looking to build once more. We finished 7th last year. This year, I want to aim for the playoffs. You know, at the start of the year, if you told me top half, I would have kind of bitten your hand off. That's kind of what I expected and what I really hope we could achieve. The fact that obviously we got to the final day of the season and missed out thanks to, a poor result against Burnley, really, was a little bit disappointing. But today, to open the season, we're not back with the first game of the season. It's actually the second league game, but it's against Burnley, and I want to see how far has the team come since the end of last season. You know, it's going to be a bit of a chance today to see, have we changed, have we improved? And, speaking of improvements, I think we have, and the signings I think kind of indicate a upward movement, I guess you could say. You can see loads of players here who I am still looking at bringing in, some of them, some great players here. Konsa maybe joining us on loan. There's been some other players who I didn't get work permits for, who I would have loved to have signed. But all in all, just a fantastic little batch of players here, really, who I'm hoping, that we can, use to try and get to the playoffs, if not a little bit further this year. So I guess the thing that might strike you immediately is the fact that we've actually spent £3.3 million, and in return, we've made £6.5 million. And that might feel like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, of course. Last year, our finances were always a little bit wonky. At the end of the year, we got some really good prize money, which took us way into the white, way into the black. We weren't making a loss anymore. And obviously, from there, we had a little bit of money to spend. And, with a little bit of transfer business, we've strengthened up. So anyway, speaking of the outs, a few of note. Rob Elliott has retired. A little bit annoyed about this because he wasn't a bad player, to be honest, at 37, the goalkeeper. But I tried to talk him out of it and didn't succeed. In terms of other outs, you can see here a few players released, no one of real note. The first of the big transfers out in terms of for a nice sum. Daniel Schneider, of course, a player we signed last year and loaned out. You can see Vincenza, who he was on loan at, actually got promoted. I think largely thanks to him, if we're being honest. 7 man of the matches in 33 games. Unfortunately, the German, unlikely ever to get a work permit, aged 20, a player we brought in on a free to get £1.7 million for him. I think it's a good little bit of business. It's smart business at the end of the day. Other players going on the outs, if we just look at some of the bigger sums of money, there are a few big ones. Perhaps the biggest, and it isn't perhaps, it is mathematically the biggest, Mina Ceciliano. He's gone to Spartak Moscow. Now, might be a little bit of a shock transfer, I guess, this guy, but he still wasn't getting a work permit. £2.4 million came in, and I kind of looked at it and went, if I want to get to the Championship or beyond the Championship this year, that kind of money, £2+ million, the way we invested it last year, if we can be smart with our money, it's going to carry us a long way. And so when I got this bid, I kind of just had to accept it for a player who, whilst he might be good in a few years' time, just doesn't have a work permit. Perhaps a few kind of shock departures here. Rob Dickey actually left for Charlton. He's gone to Charlton, who, if we look here, they're a good side, and, they are going fairly strong. You can see they're in League One, and obviously they've been languishing there for a while. They've been willing to splash a bit of cash on him, £1.1 million received. Of course, the player he only signed for £350,000 last year from AFC Wimbledon, so good to make some money. My coaches really only thought he was League One quality, and whilst he had a fantastic first year at the club, I don't know, I feel like when you get £800,000 for a player you're contemplating replacing anyway, or rather £800,000 more than what you paid for him previously, you kind of have to accept that and kind of take the money and move on. And, that's what we did. I think, in making some money there, we've done the right thing. The next player on the outs, Ryan Ledston, a player who at the start of last year, I kind of really bigged up. I thought he was going to be a monumental part of our team. In reality, he never really showed up. He had 22 starts at the club, a 6.86 average rating. You can see 2 man of the matches. But again, a player we signed in on a free to sell him to a team not in our division as well for £800,000. I mean, I'm relatively happy with that kind of money. That's money that I've been able to reinvest smartly once more. And yeah, I can't really complain. The only other player to leave for a monetary sum was David Short, a player we signed back when we were in League 2 from Cambridge. He's kind of languished as an option on the bench for us for a number of years. You can see he's gone to Torquay in the Vanarama South, perhaps an indication of how good he is. But I actually really like this guy. I think he'll do fantastic at that level. I'm surprised he's gone that low. He's just a very, very kind of talented defender. And, he's only 22. And I think at Torquay they've got themselves a little bit of a bargain, but he wasn't playing for us, and again, some pretty good money. Other players going on the outs, perhaps a few that will stick out, the likes of Russell Griffiths, Joe Edwards, players who were in the first team for an extended period of time. Another player who's actually gone out on loan, Guy Akusu. Of course, this guy, the Ivorian, he walked straight into my first team. We signed him a few years ago now from ASEC. Last year he went to Paraguay, of course. This year he's playing for FC Twente in the Netherlands, which is a great loan deal as far as I'm concerned, playing regular first team football there. He also signed a new contract at the club, which if we look here has a relegation release clause of £10 million and a minimum release clause to clubs in a higher division than us in the Premier League of £17.25 million. That's, I mean, if we were to get £17 million for him, whilst he's probably worth more than that long term, that is the kind of money that would change our club. And I did kind of shop him around just a little bit. I think the highest bid we got was something like £7 million, and I decided not to sell him. It's a bold move, but with this new contract signed, which you may have also noticed, does have an optional club extension by 3 years and a contract extension after promotion. So if we were to get promoted in the next few years, it's essentially a 9-year deal. It's a little bit of a no-brainer. We have him tied down for a long period of time. Clubs, if they want to buy him, they're going to have to pay big. And, well, if we get a bid of £17 million, as I said, I'd take it. It would be a bit of a no-brainer, despite the fact he's probably worth more than that long term. Anyway, in terms of players coming in onto the ins, you can see here, Jamal Wood. I wondered where we were going there for a second. A few Canadians, actually. We have Jamal Wood, we have Daniel Volsky, very good player. And the last player we have, Yusuf Simonet, probably the best of the players, 18 years old. You can see him playing a lot of international football at youth level. And he's gone on loan to Split, which, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it's in Croatia? It is in Croatia. You see, I know a little bit, apparently. But yeah, he's gone there. So a few loans in, and then you may have noticed them going back out on loan, of course. A number of youngsters who we just picked up on free transfers from Canadian academies. Moving on to the ins. Quite a lot of money spent, really, by our standards. £3.3 million. But I'm really, really excited by these transfers. We've got some great players here. So the first player we have, Sean Mulhall. I mean, you're going to notice here when I show these players we've brought in, we've not paid that much money. And these players are all very good championship quality players. This guy, Mulhall, promoted, I think last year with Nottingham Forest. He was actually out on loan for the year, playing for Brentford. Didn't have the greatest of seasons, if we're being honest, but he's 23, great determination, great teamwork. As a centre mid on defend, his only real weakness is his heading, which I can kind of look beyond, to be honest, and I'm really excited to see how he gets on at the club. Of course, only £475,000, a very good deal. The next player we brought in, Ben Marshall, a player who, a few years ago when we were in League One, I actually looked at loaning in. Couldn't get that to happen, but we've managed to sign him permanently now from Crystal Palace. Good player, 22 years old. He did have a loan spell last year at Blackburn in League One. Didn't really shine there. But he's a great player, 17 finishing, perhaps his composure could be a little bit better, but physically he's very good. He's not amazing in the air, but he offers us a very kind of different dimension, I guess, to Kelly as a striker. But I'll tell you now, he's not the best striker we've picked up this window, so I think he'll be a good backup player for us for the most part. The next player we brought in, Colby Middleton, signed here from West Brom. Useful little player. His polygon perhaps doesn't look all that impressive, but if you actually look at his kind of attributes, for a goalkeeper, they're not too bad here. They're pretty good. Great reflexes, good command of his area, communication's good. Perhaps his aerial reach could be a little bit better. He comes in as a backup. However, he is actually going to be playing today. That because Chucky is currently out injured. He injured his shoulder in the opening day game of the season. So, I mean, it's going to be a bit of a step up for him. I didn't really buy him with the intention of him being a long-term kind of goalkeeper alternative. I am also looking at maybe bringing in a third goalkeeper into our squad just to add a little bit more depth there. Anyway, the next player, one of a few free transfers, Josh Grant, released by Burnley, played 4 games for them last year in the Championship. You can see before that had a loan spell at Brentford. I don't think this guy's a bad player at all. 24 years old, can play centre-back as well as right-back and left-back. Very good pace, half decent in the air, kind of the all-round defender, the kind of defender you very much want on your bench, I think. I think he can cover a lot of different areas of the park for us. And at 24, plenty of years left ahead of him, and on a free transfer as well. Really good buy as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, the next player we have, Josh Harrop, joins us for £375,000, 27 years old. Looking at him, very good creative player, can definitely play in the centre of the midfield, as a deep line playmaker on support. But actually, where I'm looking at potentially playing him is out on the wing. You can see here as a winger. he's pretty well suited to the role, and I'm also training him to play out on the left-hand side as a winger. That's kind of where he may end up playing for us despite being right-footed. But the reason I really like this guy, obviously, as you can see here, he's really well suited to being a winger, but he does obviously have that creative side to his game as well, which means that on off the bench, he can play down the middle either as just a centre mid or as a centre attacking mid. Anyway, just a few more players to go through here, first of which is Gums here, signed from Liverpool, 22 years old. Great player. If we look at his report, you can see decent player for Premier League sides. Whether or not that's true, I guess remains to be seen. Last year was on loan at Sunderland and played 38 matches for them. Prior to that, a few loan spells at some other Championship sides. Looks like a great player. Really, one massive glaring weakness for this guy is his lack of natural fitness. 6 natural fitness. He's had a few injury worries. We can see them here, although they are spread out over a number of kind of years, but he did fairly recently have strained knee ligaments. But at the same time, despite his large wages, the actual fee we've paid of £325,000, I think, makes this a relatively risk-free transfer. And it's of course worth noting that he is only 22 years old. And if we just quickly compare him to Harry Lennon, who I kind of feel like Harry Lennon has kind of become the benchmark when it comes to defenders at the club, you can see the difference. It's night and day. He is a massive step up. He can also play left back, so that's a really nice extra little bonus there, and a really measly fee paid. Anyway, the next 2 players we've brought in, probably the 2 players I'm most excited about. Jamie Price here, club record fee, £1.6 million. Jack, you mentioned when we looked at Ben Marshall, you had a good striker, a better striker lined up. Well, welcome here. Jamie Price, transfer listed by Swansea. I gobbled this guy up as soon as I saw him. This man, absolutely insane. One of the best kind of players I've seen go to like a Championship club, and we've signed him for such a measly fee. Yes, he has a weakness when it comes to his aerial ability. His technique's not great. You can see here he's been at Swansea for a few years. In the not-so-distant, well, I say the not-so-distant past, actually going back 2 and 3 years ago, you can see he did have loans at the Championship where he got goals. Swansea kind of then took him in as one of their own, but he's not played enough first-team football last year. Didn't have a great season, but didn't get too many opportunities. I mean, he's 23 years old. He can play out on the right wing, which is something he may well do for us a fair bit this year, unless I decide to change our system to maybe play with 2 strikers. But his athleticism, insane. 17 determination, 18 finishing. Yes, that's, I mean, you can see the stats, can't you? I think this guy is a game changer as far as we're concerned. This season, I think he could be a difference maker. A Welsh international as well. And I mean, it's a little bit of daylight robbery. We've signed him for £1.6 million. There's no release fee in his contract, except from if we get relegated, which would still be a profit. I obviously hope we don't get relegated. And he's joined us on a 3-year deal, so I'm absolutely delighted. We do have one more player I've signed. A player I actually looked to get in last year and couldn't. It's this guy, Sam Booty. Now, I see him playing as the advanced playmaker on support for us, which if we just highlight the key attributes for, I mean, 17 vision, 15 passing, great flair, great teamwork. They're kind of 4 things I always look for in a playmaker, and he ticks a lot of boxes. 22 years old as well, pretty young player. Last year was on loan at Championship side Huddersfield, where he played okay. He didn't get a whole host of opportunities. He came on 11 times off the bench. I think he's good enough to start for a Championship side, and he's going to be starting for us this season. So anyway, I mentioned he might be playing as an advanced playmaker, and while that might indicate perhaps that we might be looking to change our system, and indeed we are. We have got a few injuries which I'll talk about shortly, but you can see I've decided to ditch the attacking midfielder on attack in favour of an advanced playmaker on support. I'm actually going to look for Price out on the right-hand side, and of course Beckford out on the left, to be our kind of wide men and really command the area. Of course, Beckford last year, fantastic breakthrough year in the Championship, 18, where have I read 18? He's got 8 goals and 14 assists. And he played very well. And you can see this year, to start the year, he's already got 1 goal to his name. So this is kind of what I see us playing. But because, you know, a few players lacking match fitness, we've had players coming back from injuries. It's been quite bad, actually, the amount of injuries we've had. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to play the strongest of teams today. But all in all, I'm really, really excited by the squad that we have. If we just look at it here, you can see it's a pretty stacked squad in terms of it's fairly large. We have got a player here, just, you know, a random kind of generated player who has come in as a goalkeeper. I did mention I'm looking at a goalkeeper. I'm actually looking at Ross Etheridge here from Donny. He'd be a good little player for us if we compare him to Middleton. You can see there's definitely, obviously, an improvement there. Perhaps not so great when it comes to his shot stopping, but he's definitely a better, more rounded kind of goalkeeper. Etheridge, only 28, going to be joining us for a small fee because his contract's already expired. As you can see, I think we had a bid of £160,000 accepted. So that goalkeeper position, not so bad, but looking kind of beyond that, perhaps at centre mid, we're going to have to move a few players into the reserves. There may be a few players who leave before the end of the transfer window. But kind of when you look at our squad now, obviously David Gumbs and Jamie Price, two new additions to the side, really, really rated highly by our assistant. Obviously, the likes of Needham remain in the side. Chucky, unfortunately, out injured, as I mentioned, with a damaged shoulder, but he's there. And then you've still got the likes of Rumsby, who we've got in on loan for another year from Newcastle, 21 years old. May find himself playing a little bit more frequently this year, I think, alongside Gumbs. I think those two kind of centre-backs could really complement each other nicely. And also, they're both Scottish, so they've got that in common. And who knows, maybe they could become Scotland's long-term kind of centre-back partnership. But anyway, this is the team that we're going to have to play for today's game. The other injury to talk about is actually Gustavo Rojas. You can see here, 22 years old, abdominal strain. I'm actually a little bit worried because I don't think he's going to get a work permit when we come to renew his contract at the end of the year or sooner. So that is, I mean, it's a little bit of a concern, I guess. So I might have to look at a longer-term solution at right back. But in terms of our squad as a whole, despite the injuries, it's still very strong. As I mentioned, a few players perhaps lacking match fitness, but I'm actually going to chance a few players. You can see Needham and Jamie Price actually were both injured for our first game of the year. It's worth noting they were minor injuries. I think Needham had a bruised shin, and then Price had a bruised head. So not too much to worry about there. As I mentioned, we have played 2 games this year. We won 3-0 against Millwall, a newly promoted Millwall. It was a good performance, I guess, all in all. Kind of interestingly, I guess, all kind of current squad players getting the goals. And, well, good to see Kevin Kelly kind of kicking off things where he left them last year. He got a goal and an assist on his league debut for the season. Worth noting as well, he started playing for the Scottish national team. So that's a really good landmark for him. And his contract, in terms of the loan, has been extended for another year. And this year, I've managed to remove the release fee, or not the release fee, sorry, the recall clause. So we've got him in on loan for 2 years. Watford can't have him back, and that is an absolutely insane deal as far as I'm concerned, because I think he can still be a very key player for us this year. So we got that 3-0 win there. We did also beat Leyton Orient, and of course, as I mentioned today, we're going away to Burnley, the side who they humiliated us, let's face it, at the end of last season. They currently sit second in the league. They were actually top after their opening game of the year. So this could be a game between two teams looking very, very strong. In terms of the teams who came down, it was actually the likes of Wolves. Was it Fulham who came down? I think it may have been. I guess we could really quickly check the Premier League. But yeah, I think it was the likes of who was it? It was Wolves, Fulham and Brighton who came down. You can see there Wolves and Fulham played really, really poorly. And well, Man City, they won the league fairly convincingly. Not a whole lot has really changed in terms of the status quo in the Premier League kind of in the last 7 or 8 years on this series, unfortunately. But anyway, let's get into today's game against Burnley. We're lacking a few key players. You can see here, Gums been passed to play half a game. So we are going to chance him. In terms of our actual team for today's game, perhaps a little bit of pressure on Middleton. Whilst this, I guess, is going to be a good benchmark to see how we do against Burnley, who hammered us last year. Obviously, I'm looking for a win, really. The fact that we have got so many injuries is a little bit of a cause for concern. At left back, we have got Kavanagh back in the first team. He's had a few issues of his own. He did play the last game back at full fitness, but he did have an injury. Yeah, he pulled his hamstring during pre-season, which was less than ideal, but he is back today, just not quite 100% sharp. Right back, Rojas is currently out injured, so Luke O'Neill comes in. I'd still like to get a new right back, I think, before the window's closed, particularly if Rojas's work permit is going to become a problem. In the centre-back position, we're going to go with Rumsby here at right centre-back. At left centre-back, part of me wants to go with Gums, because he is kind of the new player. At the same time, 65% match fitness, I don't know if I can risk him. I don't really want to bring in a new player and then kind of completely ruin him. So we'll actually bring in Harry Lennon here. Kind of worth noting, obviously, the margin of error with your assistant. You can see here, my assistant thinks that Harry Lennon is the best thing since sliced bread at centre-back. When it comes to the lemon at least, but actually Gums is significantly better if you actually look at the attributes. But, I mean, it's the assistant manager in Football Manager. They lied to you. Never trust your assistant. Pro tips with Jack. Anyway, in centre mid, Mulhall is going to play for us. He had a pretty good debut last time out. You can see he got an assist And he's currently got an 8.0 average rating after one game. We'll take that. Hopefully he can maintain that, although that will be difficult. Needham plays alongside him at centre mid. Of course, a player who came in January last year. Really big fee paid for him. He's signed a new contract at the club, which has removed his minimum release clause to a team in a higher division. Really happy about that. He's also committed his next 3 years to the club, so it's kind of good to see a player who we signed in January was a little bit unsure perhaps about joining us here at Hereford. Last year he was really happy with how he placed, and obviously coming into this season he's now committed his long-term future to the club. Anyway, ahead of him we've got Booty. Of course, this is a little bit of an experiment because we are going to be playing with Booty as an advanced playmaker, but it's a role he's very, very well suited to play, as you can see here. Out on the right we have Price. I mean, part of me wants to play this guy as a striker, but we can't because Kevin Kelly plays there. I think he'll be a very good right winger anyway at this level, but I am, you know, potentially evaluating ways in which we could maybe switch to a system that plays with 2 strikers. And I don't want to say it yet, but the kind of most likely formation for that is looking like it's going to be maybe a 4-3-1-2, something like this. But again, you know, time will tell. We may change to a system like this because we have the players to play it. But right now, we're going to stick with a 4-2-3-1 because it's obviously served us well in recent years. Out on the left, we've got Beckford. Up top, we've got Kevin Kelly. On the bench, we've got Gums, Josh Grant, Tom Davis, Ben Marshall, Ford, Harrop and Madison. Of course, Marshall and Harrop, new kids on the block, new signings. Perhaps a little bit sad to see James Madison, you know, dropped from the first team. But if we just quickly compare him to Booty, I mean, the difference in the players is pretty vast at this point, and Booty is only 22 years old, so I want to give him regular first-team football to hopefully help him reach his potential, albeit at I don't want to say a fairly late stage in his development, but at 22 years old, you've probably only got 3 or 4 years, maybe max, to kind of continue to develop a significant amount. So anyway, let's get into today's game. We're taking on Burnley. It's away from home. It's not going to be easy. But let's see what we can do. Of course, the squad, it's a little bit kind of mix and match at the moment. It's certainly not what I'd consider to be our best 11. We have still got, you know, £1 million to spend, and there is still a few weeks left of the transfer window, so there may be a few more players that come in. Obviously, in terms of our signings, I'm delighted with Jamie Price and Booty actually up top. Marshall as well, Ben Marshall, who we've signed from Palace, I think is another great kind of attacking option. It may come as a bit of a surprise, I guess, to some, the fact that we've continued to sign more attacking players, considering last year we scored goals for fun. But to be honest, defensively, obviously we brought in Gumby. There weren't a whole lot of options, and particularly at the fullback areas, there just weren't very good fullbacks available. So I decided to kind of evaluate our situation. I saw the likes of Jamie Price available for, what, £1.6 million, and I saw the fact he had 18 finishing. I saw the fact his kind of majority of his physicals were above 15. And I kind of knew that we had to sign him whilst we could, because otherwise the other teams were going to come in. Obviously, the £1.6 million is an absolute bargain as far as I'm concerned. Worth noting with him that obviously he joins us, but no other teams were interested in him. There was a few teams actually monitoring, but no one else put in a bid, so he didn't really have a decision to make. He didn't have a choice in who he joined, which is probably for the best because, well, we are Hereford and we do still lack that appeal that perhaps some more established clubs within the Championship have. Anyway, not been the most exciting start to this game. You know, opening game of the year, these kind of games have usually treated us fairly well, so hopefully things can improve, although, well, we need to defend here. Mowat, edge of the box, hit from range. I mean, Burnley have scored there. It's a nice goal. Looking at this kind of performance thus far, we've not created a lot. Neither have Burnley. That is their first shot on target. But, well, we might have to change things up. Obviously, the kind of attacking midfielder roles have changed for me. I may go back to the attacking midfielder on attack with wingers on support. I do want to try and, you know, play players in the best kind of, I guess, roles and positions for them. As I mentioned, the 4-3-1-2, it might be something I just look at because with Price and Kelly, it may be a case of we should play both players in the kind of striker positions because that's where they're going to get the most goals for us. But obviously the 4-3-1-2 system, it's actually a system I've used for a number of years in FM with reasonable success. The big, I guess, worry for me is, does it still work in FM16 as well as it has in the past, or is it not so good? Particularly, obviously, last year if you played FM16, fullbacks were incredible. I don't know if they're still incredible now. Well, they're not. They don't get kind of a million assists a season. And, well, Rumsby, he should get an assist if they score this. Middleton, nice stop. It hits the woodwork. I mean, fair play to the goalkeeper who we've kind of drafted in last minute. He's made a nice little stop there. Part of me wants to switch to the 4-3-1-2 in the second half as a plan B, because I'm wondering, it's fairly different to our current system. I think it was the Gibraltar save last year. I played the 4-3-1-2 most of the time, but I also had a 4-2-3-1 that we could easily switch to. And kind of having that flexibility to just completely change your system at half time is really nice. So I think we might take a chance here. I can't remember if I've set up all the instructions correctly, so that's going to be a test. And also, I'm not sure how familiar players are going to be with it. But we'll just quickly pause it. So if I do want to go with this, it's going to be Price playing probably with Kelly as the complete forward. I feel like that's the most logical thing. I could play them the other way around. Actually, looking at it, definitely makes more sense. You can see he only has one attribute below 10, Price, and that's actually his jumping reach for a complete forward. So we'll do that. I'm actually going to put him on attack. We're going to play Booty. Do I want to play him as a trequartista? It's not a role I've played in a few years in FM, but I think we might try it out today. I do want to play Needham as our centre mid, kind of playmaker. Beckford's probably going to be the man sacrificed here. We'll go with Mulhall there. I have one more kind of change I need to make here. I'm going to bring in Tom Davies actually to be our centre mid. And then in terms of our instructions, what are they set to at the moment? Exploit the middle, look for overlap, shorter passing, fairly wide. It's kind of what I want. I want us to play a higher tempo as well. We'll play fluid because I know that our players are obviously fairly familiar with that from our main system. So it's a bit of a roll of the dice here to completely change our system to a 4-3-2-1 or 1-2, sorry, up top. But I want to see how well Price and Kevin Kelly can play up top alongside each other because they're both players who they should be scoring goals for fun at this level. Obviously, I'm hoping that for a player like Jamie Price, he can hit the ground running. He missed out on the game against Millwall due to a bruised head, and I've just been told he might have a bruised head again. Does he have like bruised head syndrome? Is that a thing? Apparently, he hasn't got a knock now. His condition doesn't seem that bad. But well, we are a goal down here. It was an absolute screamer, but the longer it goes on, perhaps the more concerned I have to be. Our front three, they've not had the greatest of games. Let's make some changes here. I'm going to take off Kevin Kelly, actually. Bold move here. I'm going to bring in Ben Marshall. We're going to bring in James Maddison as well for Booty as our trequartista. Half an hour left. All our subs have been made. We've played our hand. We've gone all in. We can't take any chips out now. We've committed to this decision. But let's see what we can do. We've got a set piece here. Price takes it, whips it in. It's headed away. But Needham, I mean, how has that gone into the back of the net? It's an own goal by Agayi, who actually got the initial goal for Burnley. How did this go in? That's what I need to know. It looked like Needham just hammered it, and it's deflected 3 times. 1, 2. I mean, we'll take it. It's not a particularly beautiful goal, but it's in the back of the net, and that's what matters as far as I'm concerned. So, I don't know if we can really say we've deserved that, but this has been a game with very few chances in, but we seem to be playing okay at the moment. And, well, with 27 minutes left, we are the team on the attack. Price here, options in the middle. Can he put in a ball of quality? He can. Marshall's there. The debutantes link up. Benny Marshall, signed from Crystal Palace. I mean, maybe he's the man to get us the goals that we're going to need this year. Maybe he will be the unlikely source. Joins us for just a few £100,000. Price, who I've talked about maybe playing as a right winger, puts that ball in with his left peg, his weaker foot. Lovely ball in, driven in. Marshall finishes it. And, well, the bold move to take off Kevin Kelly, at least for now, it's paid off. We have scored 2 goals, well, in the space of, 4 minutes since making the last 2 subs. Part of me wants to go defensive now. Part of me has the attitude of, let's not sit and park the bus. Let's continue to play on the front foot because it seems to be working for us. But obviously, it's always a good feeling in Football Manager when on the opening day of the season, kind of 2 new signings link up. What's not a good kind of feeling is when the ball almost goes in like that. I mean, he kept it out eventually, Middleton, but my heart did skip a beat then. That probably on another day ends up in the back of the net. We've got another set piece to deal with here. These are proving problematic. Mee has it. Is it going to go in? It is going to go in. I thought we were going to hack that off the line somehow there. Ben Mee gets his first goal of the season. It's 2-2 now. I mean, it's more competitive than last time we played Burnley. Perhaps the warning signs were there. Perhaps the fact we don't have Chucky in goal is a problem. Because Middleton, bless him, I mean, he didn't really need to dive for that, did he? The man on the post should maybe try and make something happen there. But I don't know. I can't really... I was about to say we can't really fault anyone. Oh, Price hits the woodwork. Wow, that would have been a great way to introduce himself, an assist and a goal like that. Unfortunately, it hit the crossbar. He will now be in the box though. Kavanagh whips it in. Warren hacks it clear. 15 minutes left in this game. We've hit the woodwork from a set piece. This game's come to life. It wasn't particularly thrilling in the first half. I mean, they scored a long-range effort. But since that scrappy goal that was an own goal, it's been fairly entertaining, even for me playing it. I've been thoroughly entertained. Unfortunately, obviously, that goal that we just recently conceded, not so entertaining. But entering the last 10 minutes here, I mean, the 4-3-1-2 seems to have worked fairly well. You know, we're 2-1 up in the second half if we look at it like that. Ben Marshall's got the goal, of course. We are tiring a little bit, and actually, Burnley are on the attack here. We need to stay switched on. Rolando Aarons back to Bidwell. Of course, we know all about Aarons. He's cutting inside now. O'Neill, did he foul him? He did foul him. It's a penalty. Right, Middleton, become a hero. Be the hero that we need. We don't have Chucky in goal. You're the man we've called upon. You're a youngster released by West Brom to us for about £80,000. Can you make the stop to become a hero here at Hereford? I don't want to pile up the pressure on you, but Graham's going to take it. I mean, he goes the right way, but he doesn't stop it. Does that, I mean, means nothing. Means nothing. They scored 3-2 Burnley. Feels a little bit unjust. If you were to look at the game from a, I guess, statistical point of view, they've created more chances and they probably deserve to be winning. But, well, to concede via a penalty, it's just a bit of a bitter pill to swallow. The keeper's effort to dive, an interesting one. It looked a little bit like a commando roll. But, I mean, 3-2. There's still time. We're going to go on overload. Overload never does anything. It's a fact. You can't tell me otherwise. If you've ever had a goal scored because you were playing on overload, it's a lie. It didn't actually happen. Obviously, I'm hoping now it can happen for us. But, well, the time in the top left, excuse me, it suggests otherwise. And, well, they might score again here. Murphy coming through. I really should get a glass of water, shouldn't I? Sat next to my desk for when I need it. Unfortunately, I don't have one, and we're at the end of the episode. Right, Mulhall, can you make something magical happen? Marshall, why are we going backwards? 3-2 it finishes. Can I be happy with that? I mean, there's silver linings to take. I'm going to tell the boys they were unlucky. It's great to see Price make an impact and get kind of an assist on his debut. He did actually come on off the bench, I believe, in the game against Leyton Orient in midweek. The other player played well, Ben Marshall. So good to see both those players, obviously, kind of come in, Jamie and Ben, and just have immediate impacts. Obviously, a little bit disappointed by Kelly's performance, but I guess the silver lining is the fact that it looks as if the 4-3-1-2 might be an option this year if we wanted to play it as kind of a real alternative system. But yeah, as I mentioned, still time in the transfer window to bring in some players. Looking at our kind of finances, in a really good spot at the moment, which is nice. If we look here, you can see our stadium is still in the planning stages, which I feel like it should have finished planning a while ago, but maybe the work's been kind of delayed. We are also working on improving our youth and training facilities. I think the total for those two renovations is actually in the region of £3 million, which is a lot of money, but obviously the long-term investment is needed. As well, currently, it'd be a fair assessment to say that our facilities for a team in our kind of league, they're not really good enough. The adequate training and adequate youth facilities. Of course, our very kind of small ground is going to limit our kind of ability to reinvest in terms of wages somewhat, because we can't actually really increase the amount of money we have coming in over an extended period of time. But, I mean, for now at least, the money's relatively healthy. As I said, there may be a few transfers that still happen, and we've got some money left to spend if we want to. But anyway, guys, that is going to wrap things up from me. Hopefully you enjoyed this opening episode. Let me know what you made of our transfers. What do you think? You know, I'm delighted by Sam Booty and Jamie Price. Booty, he's not had the greatest start, but I look at Jamie Price here and I'm thinking Premier League goal scorer. And the fact we've managed to sign him in the Championship, like, I'm buzzing about that. Clearly wasn't getting enough opportunities at Swansea. I think he can be a really kind of club-changing signing for the side. One other thing, I didn't really mention it, but you may notice our wages have gone up this year. It's kind of to be inevitable, you know, establishing ourselves as a Championship side. I want to continue pushing the club forward. To do that, we've got to spend money, and that is kind of something that's kind of maybe kind of apparent, I guess, when you look at our wages. So anyway, in terms of when we'll be back next time, I'm not entirely sure. We'll see how the league plays out. Fulham could be an interesting game because they were recently relegated. That match coming in, well, just over a month's time. So that may well be the game we do. Hopefully, obviously, a lot more of our players are available for that game so you can kind of see our squad at full strength. But to be honest, to lose only 3-2 away from home against Burnley, I think that's a relatively positive result that we can take something from. Anyway, that's all from me. Hopefully you did enjoy. Leave a like if you did. And other than that, it is me, Jack, and I will talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.
check it out.